I make YouTube videos about this now.
No, of the visit. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna try my very best to make this as brief as possible, but we all know I'm gonna be a little rambly, so before we even begin, grab some warm tea, some coffee, a snack, I don't know, just something that's gonna keep you comfortable, because this is gonna be a long one, I already know that. Before we jump in, be sure to check me out on my social medias here. If you're interested, you can follow me there. I just want to get straight to the point because I know rambling is not going to get the results and the answers that you guys have been waiting for, so I appreciate you watching this series and being excited for it. I've heard from quite a few of you getting excited to see this last installment, but we're just going to jump right in because there's a lot of material that I got to get through, like, no, not all that much. These are just all of my schedules that I had to use for reference so I could actually break this down so it makes sense for you guys. So with that being said, I had to refer back to all of my schedules, and I say all of my schedules because they changed every day. I'd go to an appointment and then my entire schedule would change for the rest of the week slightly, so I'm just gonna kind of break it down for you guys and then explain what I did at each appointment or test. Right away on Monday the 21st, this was in January by the way, I was there the 21st through the 25th. The first appointment I had was with Neurology, and I had a consult at the butt crack of dawn, mind you, 7:30 a.m. Basically, I was just meeting with a doctor that specializes in autonomic disorders, which was pretty cool because I recognized her from a video that I had seen previously uploaded by Dysautonomia International. That is an organization that really contributes to like the research and resources for POTS patients, family members, friends, just anybody that wants to read about POTS. Go to dysautonomiainternational.org, I think. I'll link it down below. I recognized her from a video from that, so that was pretty cool to kind of be in touch with an actual person that knows a lot about it, because in my area, nobody really knows about POTS. I guess I should say I was diagnosed with POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, last year around this time, a little bit earlier, in St. Cloud, Minnesota, at the hospital there by a cardiologist. So realistically, POTS is not a cardiovascular, it's not a disease, it's a disorder, or a syndrome rather. I don't want to give anything away because I want to wait for the results to be at the end of the video, so if you want to see that part, you're gonna have to keep watching. But I learned at Mayo, before I jump into all of my appointments and stuff, that mainly, it's not that cardiologists shouldn't be diagnosing patients with POTS or whatever, but it's not a cardiovascular issue. So when cardiologists have their take on POTS and try to diagnose it, often the results for the testing is a little different, and you guys will hear why. So autonomic stuff was discussed with the neurologist that I met with. As you may have seen in my previous installment, she did not want to be on camera. Well, it wasn't so much that she didn't want to be on camera. She said she could get in legal trouble for filming.
Why the fuck you lying?
So I didn't get to film any of my appointments. That's also why this series took a little bit of a turn, and that's why this is a sit-down video rather than a vlog, because I thought I was going to be able to piece every day together and show you guys footage of me getting testing done and stuff like that, which I shouldn't have really assumed I was going to be able to do that, because that's just not realistic. But we're here now, and we're gonna get all that backtracking aside, and we're gonna start with my first appointment in Neurology at 7:30 a.m. on Monday. Like I said, I just met with the doctor. We briefly covered like my symptoms and stuff, which I honestly wish that doctor would have given me more time to input my own experiences and journey with POTS, because she kind of walked into the appointment expecting me to be like every other POTS patient, which I didn't really appreciate. I understand that she's an important doctor at an important hospital, and she has to manage her time wisely, and she's got to be timely about things. I understand that, but at the same time, I would have thought that after seeing my chart, because I know she reviewed my chart, otherwise she wouldn't have been knowing what she was walking into, but she walked into the appointment saying,
"So, you started to faint."
And I was so taken back by that. Like, even in the clip of me actually getting footage in the appointment, you can see that I was kind of like,
yeah.
Okay.
Just a little backstory. I promise I'm not going to backpedal too much again, but with my experience with POTS, I never passed out. The only time I did was in my tilt table test, which, if you don't know what that is, I would just check out my second installment of this series, because I show you a little snippet of what a tilt table test looks like. But anyway, she walked in talking about me fainting, and I never did. and I was so nervous and anxious and all that stuff that I didn't really know when to come in too with an important doctor like that, so I was just kind of all over the place and I kind of went with it, but then I corrected her by saying,
no, I would just get the pre-syncope symptoms and I never really knew what it was.
But I just got a little confused by how she approached the appointment with me kind of fitting every other POTS patient, which every case is different and every person's different. Basically that consult was just going over symptoms and stuff like that and medications that I take, kind of like your regular visit with your doctor, but it was just more focused on the autonomic stuff and the POTS stuff, which if you don't know, POTS is an autonomic dysfunction disorder, syndrome, whatever you want to call it. So all of the functions that your body has that does it automatically, automatic, they go hand in hand. With POTS or any other autonomic dysfunction, your body doesn't function properly. It's a dysfunction of your autonomic functions in your body. Most brief overview of POTS that you'll get, or autonomic dysfunction, or dysautonomia. It's a lot, I know, but that's a really easy way of explaining it. So she basically just ordered more tests and blood work and all of that good stuff. So I kind of understand why the visit was a little rushed, because she didn't have hardcore evidence of what my body does with POTS or whatever. I wish I would have said this in the video, but whatever, I'm adding it in now. I don't really like that I tried to excuse the doctor kind of rushing me through my appointment, because it really did leave a sour taste in my mouth. The main reason why, not only because she walked into the appointment assuming things about me, even though she should have just looked at my chart and known that my case was different than everybody else's, which, like I said, not everybody with POTS passes out anyway. I had my bullet journal with me. I even grabbed it to show you. I made lots of notes to bring up to the doctors there, and she did not give me 2 minutes to even bring up any of my concerns that were in there that were probably tied into the whole POTS thing, but also just concerns that I had in general that I thought that she'd be able to help me out with, but she honestly didn't even give me a chance to talk, really. She kind of just came in, assumed things, ordered tests, did a quick little exam, and then sent me on my way, and I just felt like I was very rushed, and I didn't appreciate that. I was afraid to sound complainy, and I think that's why I didn't mention it in the video, but the more that I listen to myself talk about this, trying to like beat around the bush, no, it was wrong that she rushed me. We paid a lot of money for me to be able to go there, so I think that they should give you more time to give your input or just voice your concerns, and I don't think that she did that. So after that consult, I had to go check in or check out with the neurology checkout people, and we had to get other tests and stuff ordered for the week. This is when it kind of comes in with my schedule changing constantly. So they told me, hey, go to this floor, this whatever, which that place is huge. I got a lot of exercise, which is good. But they're like, go to this desk on this floor and check in as a checker. And I'm like,
okay.
So I go downstairs or whatever to this new area, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be a checker, and they're like, okay, I'll get you in. And I'm like, but what does that mean though? Because no one at Mayo had explained to me what a checker was. They just said, go be a checker. I'm like, and do what? So basically they told me, well, your appointment that was scheduled on Friday, autonomic reflex screening, which I had no clue what it was. I just thought like, oh, they're gonna poke me with some stuff, but they're like, well, it was supposed to be Friday, but we're gonna move it to this morning, possibly this afternoon. So I had to be a checker, which ended up meaning being on standby to see if they could get me in sooner. But it was 9:30 a.m. at the time, and they told me you're gonna have to stay in this waiting room until 2:30 to see if we can get you in. So I was like, that's like the whole day. And I had to get blood work right after, so, and I wasn't allowed to leave, so I either had to make my mom like go get me food eventually or something like that. I heard her, the lady at the desk, as she's explaining to me what a checker is, she mentioned the words tilt table test, and I'm like, oh wait, what did you just say? And she's like,
yeah, the tilt table test.
And I'm like, no, it says autonomic reflex screening. She's like,
well, yeah, that's part of it.
And I'm like, that's only part of it? You could probably ask any POTS patient about a tilt table test and they'll probably have the same response of it being slightly traumatic. So I had a mini panic attack, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to do that again? And she's like, well, I'm assuming so if that's what the doctor ordered. And I'm like, but I already did one. She's like, well, you'll have to check with the doctor, then I can't really go further with that discussion with you because I'm just, you know, check-in girl. In my paperwork, I found a phone number to call if I had questions, and I asked them, I'm like, so why do I have to take another tilt table test? I've already done one. And they said, well, did you have it done at a Mayo Clinic facility? And I said, no. And they're like, well, this doctor wants you to get it done here because Mayo Clinic does them a little differently. So I was preparing myself to have to go through this whole traumatic thing again. So I was freaking out a little bit. Well, thankfully, the lady on the phone told me, hey, it looks like you're gonna be able to get in around 10. Well, it was only like 15 minutes away. So they took me back about 10, and the nurse was so nice. I wish I knew her name, but she was so nice. She actually had Pandora playing and stuff, and she had like essential oils in the room and stuff. And it turned out that the autonomic reflex screening was nowhere as invasive. I can't speak today already, and my voice is already getting hoarse. This is gonna be a fun video. And I'm not gonna talk too much more about this appointment because I covered it all in my last episode. So then after that, I had to get some lab work done, just basic lab work, and then I was done for the day. So that was a pretty easy day. So we are now at Tuesday the 22nd at 7:30 a.m. Again, I had to meet with Endocrinology for a consult and evaluation. Endocrinology is basically like your hormones, your blood work. So that was kind of the same thing with neurology, just kind of talking about my concerns. Mainly I was meeting with Endocrinology because of my PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. So again, same kind of thing. Ordered more labs, or more testing, all that good stuff. Didn't really accomplish much with that appointment, but we needed to get more testing to figure out what was wrong. So the next appointment that I had was with, I'm gonna have to put it on the screen because I do not know how to pronounce this, otorhinol, that word. I met with like a physical therapist in that department. Cue dogs barking. Basically, I met with this physical therapist in this department to see if there was something wrong with my vestibular system, which is your sight, your ears, and your balance, pretty much. What is this? But I met with them just to kind of see if that was contributing to my dizziness, which it isn't or wasn't. But I had mentioned to her that I was already seeing a physical therapist at my home clinic, which I still am. And she basically said, yeah, it sounds like you're doing what you need to do for this, just incorporate some more vestibular exercises. So we are now. And I think it's been helping a little bit. Like I said, there wasn't any significant damage or anything to my vestibular system. Between me going to this ear, nose, and throat department and then my endocrine test, we just hung out at the hotel room. But at this endocrine test, basically what we did was I went in, sat down in this chair, they put it in IV so that they could take blood, and then I literally went into a dark room and laid down for half an hour, and I wasn't able to talk, which was kind of weird. And it was kind of annoying because like the whole point of them doing this test was to see how my adrenaline and that kind of stuff, to see how those chemicals in my body adjusted or changed based on me being like alone in a dark room with nothing, like no stressors or no added stressors, and then how I'd be like out in the lobby walking around with a bunch of people. So I laid in this room for 30 minutes, and you'd think like that literally sounds like the easiest test ever, which it kind of was, but at the same time, like I was already anxious about what this test was going to be because I hadn't had it explained to me. So here I thought like, oh, they're going to inject me with something and it's going to make me like have a panic attack and blah blah blah. Like I didn't know what the test was going to be, so I was kind of anxious already. And it was kind of stupid because my epinephrine was actually pretty high, and that was literally when I was just laying in that room. But I think it was because I was freaking out, like probably for a good 15 minutes while I was laying there, I was literally shaking because I was so anxious. So I think the results were kind of skewed, not like it was anybody's fault but my own because I hyped myself up for no reason. But basically, they had me lay in that room for 30 minutes, and then they had someone come in, draw more blood, and it was weird because they're like,
do not talk to a person that comes in because it could skew your result.
So then after that, they're like, okay, put your shoes back on and just go walk around for 10 minutes out in the lobby. But I basically just walked out there, sat down, and just kind of talked to my mom. And I'm just gonna mention, I don't know if she's watching this, but I met a super sweet girl that was actually going to a lot of the same appointments that I was. Her name is Melissa. We met during that appointment, and I'm so grateful that I did because we've actually kept in contact since we met, and it was really cool. I really hope you're watching this. I just wanted to shout you out because You're awesome and I appreciate your encouragement. I'm actually gonna leave her Instagram down below because she has some really inspiring posts. And then after that 10 minutes was up, I had to go back to the room where I was getting the testing, and then they drew more blood. So basically they just wanted to see how my like adrenaline and other hormones or chemicals, whatever, adjusted based on my surroundings and stuff like that. So the next test that I had, which was right away at 7:45 a.m. on Wednesday, was called a sweat test. I was very anxious for this one as well. This was probably the test that I was the most anxious for, which is kind of funny because that's actually the one test that I was the most calm, which was crazy. I did a lot of praying the night before and the morning of because I was very anxious that not only that the test was going to be rough, but that for the rest of the day following that test was going to be really rough, because typically if my symptoms get worse or triggered by something like heat, for example, I usually feel like trash the rest of the day and sometimes for a few days. Basically what I had to do was come in and change into a gown, and then I had to lay on a hospital gurney bed, whatever, and they sprinkled this powder on me that turns purple when it comes in contact with moisture such as water or sweat. I was put into an oven essentially, and I believe that the temperature was set to 112 degrees and that the humidity was set to 12%. So that's really hot. I don't know if you guys are sensitive to heat like I am, but that's really warm. It was interesting because there's like cameras in there to take pictures and video. I think I had to put like a thermometer, almost like a wire that went out of the oven that kept track of my temperature, because I had to get taken out when I reached a temperature of like 101.4. I had to cook at 112 degrees for about 35 minutes, which that's a long time for someone that doesn't suffer from heat intolerance. And it was really cool too because they had speakers in the actual oven, I'm calling it again. The nurse had me pick what kind of music I wanted to listen to, which it was like an old iPod, so we just listened to Adele, which was kind of cool. I really liked that a few of my appointments, they incorporated listening to music or Pandora because it helps get your mind off of it a little bit. Probably the last 10 to 15 minutes was pretty hard. I started to get kind of woozy, icky feeling, but POTS wise, I don't know if like you're supposed to sweat a lot or if you're not supposed to sweat a lot to prove the POTS thing. I don't really know, but I actually have pictures of what my sweat patterns were. So there's that. Right after that, I had to go to pick up a blood pressure / Holter monitor that I was gonna wear for 24 hours. During the day, it would go off every 10 minutes, which is a lot. And then throughout the night, I think it was after like 9 p.m. or something, it would only go off every 20 minutes, but I'm pretty sure I was awake for every one of them, which was kind of frustrating, but it was worth it just so they could get the results that they needed to see what they needed to. But it was just frustrating because you had to be completely still while it was taking your blood pressure, otherwise it would stop and then retake it in like a minute after I got my Holter monitor thing put on. I actually went to their education center. It was basically like a little library, but they had some like interactive statue kind of things, which was really cool. It showed like the nerves and like where certain organs were in the body, and then they just had like walls of information that you could take for free. For example, how to read a food label, herbal supplements, migraine headaches, just booklets on like different conditions. But they have DVDs and CDs that you can just take for free, which was really cool. And then I had POTS education at that education clinic thing that I was at. But I really appreciate that they did that, because if it was a different patient that really didn't know anything about POTS but was there for POTS, that would be really nice and beneficial for them. Now comes Thursday. That was my longest day. The first thing that I had to do was do a glucose tolerance test, which the reason why I was doing this was for PCOS. Often patients with PCOS experience insulin resistance, so I basically had to just get this test done so that we could see if I was at risk for diabetes and just insulin resistance in general. So I went in, got blood drawn, drank like, I think it's like 75 grams of sugar like in this super flat drink. It was so disgusting, like it was so sugary that it burned my throat. I had to go sit out in the lobby for 2 hours, which was super fun, but I was allowed to drink water to kind of flush it out. But I'd say for the first hour I felt like sugared up and my stomach hurt and I was dizzy and it was just gross. And then after the 2 hours was up, I went back, to the same room, and then they drew blood again, and then I was sent on my way. And then I had an exercise test, which was at 2:45, which that one was rough as well. Basically, I had to sit on, basically it was like a bike. To up the stakes even more, I had to wear this big like oxygen thing. Like, it wasn't giving me oxygen, it was tracking my oxygen, but it was very cumbersome and kind of like cut off. Like, it squeezed my nose, like not on purpose, but it was just so cumbersome that it was hard to breathe. I don't know if it was supposed to put resistance on my breathing. It might have been, I don't remember. But basically, they put a certain resistance on the bike, and I'd have to rate my exertion level on a scale. Like, this is taking no effort at all to like, I can't take it anymore. So they started out with a certain resistance, and I had to do that for so long, and I had to get it to a certain like RPM. It was kind of hard, but then they upped the stakes higher and higher until I couldn't take it anymore. And I'm just gonna say, after, I felt like I was gonna pass out. Like, it was pretty bad. I actually had to get wheelchaired to my next appointment because I like couldn't even think straight or anything. It was bad. After that, at 4:15, I had another office visit at Neurology, and that was basically to discuss my results. And I think this is where the results are going to shock a lot of you. I was definitely shocked when I was told this, but I don't have POTS. Yeah, you heard me. I apparently don't have POTS, which I was very surprised to hear. At first it was a little hard to digest because for many years before this, I had a lot of symptoms that didn't really make sense, and I kept searching for an answer and searching for an answer. And then when I found POTS and I got diagnosed in St. Cloud, I was like, oh my god, this is the answer I've been looking for years. Like, the tachycardia, the shortness of breath, the heat intolerance, all of this is just, it's POTS, like, it makes sense. So to hear this high up there doctor that specializes in this tell me, well, I don't think you have POTS, I'm like, oh, so we starting over. I was honestly kind of mad at first, not kind of, very mad at first, because I'm like, oh my god, we just spent all this money to come here, and now my medical bill is going to be huge, and here I don't even have the thing that I'm trying to get more help for here. And I asked the doctor, I'm like, well then why was I even diagnosed with POTS? Like, I actually passed out at my test, like how can that not be POTS? And she's like, I don't know. Who diagnosed you? And I was like, well, it was a cardiologist. And she's like, well, that's kind of the thing though. And another nurse had told me the same kind of thing. It was actually during the autonomic reflex screening. She was kind of telling me the difference between a cardiologist's take on a tilt table test and the diagnostic criteria. Well, the diagnostic criteria for POTS is the same all around. I think mainly all it really takes to be diagnosed with it is if your heart rate, if it increases by 30 beats per minute within 10 minutes, based off of the tilt table test that I had done at Mayo Clinic. I apparently didn't react in a way that would be diagnosable for POTS in Mayo. I guess I didn't really explain this that well, but in the tilt table test at Mayo, I only had to stand up for 10 minutes, and they told me, like, our goal is not to make you pass out, it's just to see what your body does. If you feel achy, we'll lay you down. Whereas in St. Cloud, they're like, we want you to pass out, and if you don't pass out, we're going to give you medication to pass you out. But thankfully, it only took me 3 minutes. Whereas the tilt table test in Mayo, I was there for 10 minutes and I made it through the whole thing. So it was only like the last 3 minutes they said I started to get really symptomatic. And this neurologist said that she attributed that more to anxiety and stress. Honest to God, I was calm once they told me, like, this tilt table test is not going to be like the one that you did that made you pass out. I'm like, oh, okay. So everything after that was easy. So I thought, I'm not stressed, I'm not anxious. But apparently that's what it was. Now I'm in a better headspace, and I'm happy about that because it changes a lot of things for me. It gives me more answers for like having children. Sounds like way more attainable now. I do still experience a lot of the same symptoms as POTS, but I can see how it could be stress or anxiety induced, absolutely, because I've always been in a high stress environment. Like I've said to you guys before, there's a lot of stress in my family, and it's kind of inescapable, especially now since Marcos and I have to live here right now, and we don't really want to move until it's warmer out. We are working on getting a house still, if you guys are wondering. As far as the stress management and stuff goes, I am working on that. I do have a better headspace about it. At first I was very confused and conflicted on how to feel about being told I don't actually have POTS, but now I'm in a much better place, and I'm taking that as an encouragement token to keep the momentum in a positive note. And I am still working on getting better. I am working on upping my game in PT. We are not doing as many laying down activities now. Or exercises rather. We're doing more seated and standing ones, which is awesome. So my deconditioning is getting better and better. After my visit with Neurology, I had an MRI with contrast scheduled for my abdomen. We were checking my adrenals, my liver, my kidneys, just basically everything in my abdomen to make sure that hormonally that everything was in working order. That was a late one. That was at like 5:36 p.m. So I didn't get done Thursday until late, which brings us to Friday the 25th. Now, right away at 9 a.m. in the morning, I had a pelvic ultrasound. Oh, my battery's blinking, of course. Please hold. Hopefully my angle is semi close to what it was before. Friday, 9 a.m. pelvic ultrasound. But I'd already done this before, so I wasn't too anxious for it, but surprisingly, it was actually very, very painful. But I did finally get my period, and of course I got my period during the week that I was at Mayo Clinic. How fitting, I know. But thankfully I was done bleeding at this point, so maybe that's why it was so painful, or I don't know if it was my PCOS progressing, I don't really know, but it was actually very, very uncomfortable and painful. The first one that I had done, it was not bad at all. So I was a little concerned. I was like, okay, I don't remember this being so painful, so should there be a concern arising in me? And then after that, I went straight to endocrinology, and this was the big appointment since I had seen neurology and we kind of crossed one bridge and we met with the decision of you don't have POTS. So now I was going down this road and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna find out here? So I kind of went into endocrinology thinking they're gonna tell me I don't have PCOS, but it's something else, because as far as I knew anyway, I didn't have the insulin resistance. From the doctor that I had at my clinic here, it just didn't seem like she dug as deep as one should with diagnostic criteria for PCOS, which obviously she must have been going down the right track anyway, because I do have PCOS, I can confirm that. It just seemed like when she prescribed me Metformin, which if you aren't aware, Metformin is a medication often given to type 2 diabetes patients, which is a little concerning, but typically it works well for PCOS patients because it helps to control blood sugar, and by control blood sugar I mean lower blood sugar. So obviously someone that's 100 pounds soaking wet that struggles to actually keep an appetite or eat a lot because either they're having to drink a lot of water to help with their dizziness, blood pressure, stuff like that. The neurologist did tell me, like she did actually tell me, like even though I don't want to say you have POTS, you may have PPPD, which basically is like you're dizzy, we don't really know why. It could be autonomic, it could not be autonomic, it could be vestibular, it could be, we don't really know. That's kind of what I was told with neurology. Don't take me saying like I still have all the symptoms of POTS and be like, okay, it's just anxiety and you're overreacting. No, like the doctor even said, like, yeah, it's feasible that you do still have a lot of the symptoms, but I just don't want to put a label on it as POTS. So if that makes any sense to you guys. Metformin, there we go. Back on track. So I was prescribed Metformin. I only tried it once, flared up my POTS or whatever it is, made me sick. I actually puked from it. Was not a good time. Sent me in a flare-up, like a constant state of flare-up for like 2 months. Metformin was not a match for me. No. Swiping left on that one. So I wasn't convinced that I had PCOS, and I went into Mayo Clinic thinking they're going to tell me, oh, it could be this, or this, but it's not PCOS. Well, they did confirm it is PCOS. They did confirm that I do have cysts on my ovaries. They said something about like there's at least 25 follicles on each ovary. I don't really know what that means. I don't know if that's how many cysts I have. I don't really know, but that sounds like a lot and it kind of concerns me, but you know. They checked for a tumor in my like liver and or adrenal system, and I don't have any of those, which is good. I did actually find out that I have high cholesterol, which is super cool. She said that because my mom has high cholesterol and she was in the appointment with me, so she confirmed like, yeah, I have high cholesterol, I always have, that the high cholesterol that I have is hereditary. So that's where that came from. So the best way to combat that is exercise and diet, which I am working on, like I said. PT, and eventually I want to work up to weightlifting again at the gym. That's a big goal of mine. I also want to gain some weight, which kind of goes against PCOS because, like I was kind of tying in with the whole metformin thing, typically that's prescribed to PCOS patients because most PCOS women struggle with losing weight. So prescribing a pill that lowers blood sugar helps to lose weight. Well, clearly if I'm 100 pounds, I don't need to lose weight, and if I did, that would be concerning and not okay and not good. So obviously metformin was off my list of any possible treatment. They did tell me though that if I needed to, they actually have a different form of it. The one that I was prescribed originally and tried was the quick releasing form of it, which is why I had that bad reaction like all of a sudden. But they have like a slow release version which releases the medication over the course of 24 hours. So if I had to go on that one, that would be a more feasible option in comparison. By the way, result time for the whole glucose tolerance thing, I do not have insulin resistance, which is a good thing, so I'm at lesser of a risk for type 2 diabetes, but obviously with PCOS it's still going to be a risk factor, but so far I'm at lower risk. My treatment options from Mayo Clinic they gave me were like 5 or 6 options. The first one was birth control, which I just kind of was intrigued, and I wish I would have asked, like, do you think I had PCOS before I even took the pill, or do you think it was like birth control induced PCOS, because that is a thing. I personally think that I probably had some of it before I went on the pill, because the main reason I was, or the actual reason that I was prescribed the pill was because I thought I had endometriosis, and the doctor told me this is treatment for endometriosis, like this is the only treatment there is, which is not true. With that, I found a wonderful doctor by the name of Dr. Jolene Brighten. This is her book, Beyond the Pill. On the cover, it says, it is a 30-day program to balance your hormones, reclaim your body, and reverse the dangerous side effects of the birth control pill. So I was not warned of a lot of the things that this book talks about that birth control brings onto a woman. I was not warned of the harmful side effects or the long-term health risks that it can cause from taking it. So that's been interesting, reading this to learn about what half of the crap I'm going through is probably because of birth control. And that's why right away when I had started following this doctor, I found her on Instagram. Someone had referred me to her page, and I'm so thankful to God that they did, because I would not know half of the stuff that I know now if it was not for her. Also, if you're a woman and you have hormonal issues or period problems, please buy this book. It's on Amazon and Target and a bunch of other places. I will link it down below, and I'm also going to lead you to Dr. Brighten's page on Instagram and Facebook as well, so look down below for that. This is some amazing knowledge that any woman should read, so please read this. You will thank me later. So first was birth control, which I told them I don't want to have to do it because I feel like birth control is part of the whole reason why I'm in this mess to begin with. So to me, it doesn't really make sense to just mask all my symptoms and all my problems with the pill that may have started the fire to begin with. Progesterone treatment, which basically I might have to keep in my back pocket because the doctor, the endocrinologist, had told me, like, it's not like PCOS patients' periods can't be normal, like a normal woman's, but your normal is going to be a little different than normal women's, which makes sense because you have an underlying or a pre-existing condition or whatever they call that, so it makes sense. But it's not normal to go longer than 3 months without a period. So the endocrinologist told me that if next time it goes longer than 3 months, you can request to get some progesterone. You'll take that for 10 days and it'll trigger a period. I'll have to read a little bit more about that because I don't know exactly if that's something to rely on every time to want to get a period, because I also want my body to learn, or to be able to, not even just to learn, but just to be able to get a period on its own without needing supplementation like that. Anyway, so it was birth control, progesterone treatment, which I'm keeping in my back pocket, like I said, just in case. Metformin, which I already told them, no, I'm not going to do that. There was a different medication, I don't remember what it's called, but if I were to get pregnant, it could harm the baby. That's all I know, and I told them, no, I don't even want to mess with that. And then the next one was like exercise and gaining muscle mass. Oh yeah, that was the sixth thing, or the fifth or sixth thing was losing weight, which she told me, do not do that. You don't need to do that. Because yeah, with PCOS, it helps women to lose weight, to lessen their symptoms and stuff, but obviously I don't have that option because I'm already underweight. So she told me the best way that I can gain weight is through muscle, which would be beneficial anyway because I could use some muscle. So I'm going to work my way up to working out at the gym again. I specifically want to do some weightlifting again, not only to gain some muscle, but It's gonna be a journey to get there though. I don't want to jump into it too soon because then I'm honestly just gonna undo all the good progress that I'm doing right now. Even just some resistance training with like bands, I already incorporate that with my PT and my home exercises for PT, but also just like super light weights and just doing like the good old pump and iron simple resistance kind of stuff, you know. And then Endocrinology wanted to or suggested seeing a lipid specialist at Mayo, and I was going to, but I canceled the appointment. Basically a lipid specialist just kind of unpacks your high cholesterol and kind of tells you what your body specifically has as far as high cholesterol and how to treat it or whatever. But I canceled because I'm like, what are they going to tell me? You have high cholesterol, eat well and exercise. So I'm like, I got this, it's fine. And there wasn't like a super high risk moment where it's like you have to see this. It's just like, they might help you, but I just wanted to get home at that point because it was already the afternoon at this point. But that's pretty much my big update for what I found out at Mayo. It's not like groundbreaking information or anything like that, but I am glad that I finally have some good answers. Like I said, I'm very grateful that I don't have POTS, I think. Oh yeah, my testosterone. It apparently is even higher than the endocrinologist at Mayo thought that she would normally find with PCOS, which is pretty interesting. So that's what would explain my acne. I'm still getting the cystic ones, like the really, really big under the skin ones. I have a really bad one right here. And my hair has been thinning like crazy. Like there's a section right here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it without a mirror, but when I put my hair up, there's like literally a whole section it looks like wannabe bangs, and then there's just like thinning that you can see noticeably. So that's kind of taken a toll on my confidence a little bit. That was already kind of non-existent to begin with, but it could be way worse. I could have chest or facial hair, which I'm very grateful to God that I don't have that, but that just, with the high testosterone, it gives you acne. It can make you have facial or chest hair. It can also thin out your hair. So I'd rather have the thinner hair than other things. But I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I apologize that this one was so long-winded and probably really rambly, but I hope you appreciate the time and effort that I'm putting into it. I'm thankful that you guys have been inquiring about this series. I really appreciate it, and it makes me feel good knowing that some people care and that I'm still working on managing my anxiety and stress and depression, doing the best I can. It's just taking a toll on me when people start to either get tired of hearing from me or getting annoyed of me complaining about not feeling good. So that's been kind of taking a toll on me, and I'm terrified that I'm gonna lose people because of it. So that's been kind of a lot, but I'm doing my best. I promise you guys I'm on the up and up now, and I hope that you continue to follow me along on my journey and want to stick around. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe down below and turn on the post notification bell. That way you're notified every time I upload. I love you all and I appreciate you so much, and I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Bye!